I want you to picture two apartments. Same city, same neighborhood, similar rent. The first apartment belongs to someone earning $95,000 per year. Walk inside and you'll find a 75-inch television mounted on the wall, a leather sectional that cost $4,000, a kitchen full of appliances, most still in their original boxes, closets overflowing with clothes, many with tags still attached, a spare bedroom converted into storage for items that haven't been touched in years. This person checks their bank account with a knot in their stomach. 2 missed paychecks, and they're in crisis. The second apartment belongs to someone earning $52,000 per year. Walk inside and you'll notice space, a modest couch, a reasonably sized television, a kitchen with exactly the tools that get used regularly, a closet with clothes that actually get worn. The spare bedroom is actually a bedroom. This person checks their bank account with calm confidence. They have 18 months of expenses saved and invest 20% of every paycheck. Same neighborhood. The person earning almost half as much has nearly 10 times the financial security. This isn't a story about income. It's a story about the hidden relationship between stuff and money that most people never understand. The first person isn't bad with money in any obvious way. They don't gamble. They don't have expensive addictions. They just, gradually accumulated a lifestyle that requires every dollar they earn to maintain. The second person discovered something that changed everything. They learned that owning less doesn't mean living worse. It means living deliberately. And deliberate living creates financial margin that most high earners never experience. There's a specific number where this changes, and it's not what you think. Most people will tell you the solution is to earn more, that with a bigger salary you'll have more left over. But here's what they're missing. Every time income goes up, stuff goes up with it. And every item you own has a hidden cost you've probably never calculated. There's a concept that transforms everything. The number is 2. 2. Everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is the price you paid. The second is invisible, silent, and almost always larger than the first. And it's that second cost that separates people who always have money from people who never do. My name is Tomas, and I study the psychology and math behind financial decisions. I don't sell courses, I'm not a guru. I investigate why we accumulate the way we do and how it destroys our finances without us noticing. If this content helps you, subscribe and hit the like button. Before I explain why the number 2 changes everything, I need you to understand something. The rules I'm going to show you today aren't about deprivation. This isn't about living with nothing, sleeping on the floor, eating plain rice. It's about understanding that every object in your home has ongoing costs you've never put on paper. And when you do, the way you think about every purchase changes forever. Let me introduce you to a concept that will reframe how you think about every purchase you make for the rest of your life. Everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is obvious. It's the price tag, the number on the receipt, the amount that left your account. Everyone sees that one. But there's a second cost that most people completely ignore, and it's almost always larger than the first. The second cost includes 4 things: space, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. Let's start with space. That treadmill you bought needs a place in your home. Space costs money. In urban areas, the cost runs roughly $30 to $50 per square foot annually. A treadmill takes up about 20 square feet when you account for clearance space. That's $600 to $1,000 per year in implicit rent to store exercise equipment that probably hangs clothes most days. Now maintenance. That boat sitting in your driveway needs cleaning, registration, insurance, winterization, and occasional repairs. The industry rule of thumb says annual maintenance runs about 10% of the boat's value. A $30,000 boat costs $3,000 per year just to exist, even if you never take it on the water. And I'm not done. The second cost includes mental energy too. Every item you own occupies a small slice of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, maintained, insured, worried about, and eventually disposed of. Researchers found that visual clutter increases cortisol levels and reduces the brain's ability to focus. Your stuff is literally stressing you out in ways you can't consciously perceive. And finally, opportunity cost. Every dollar locked up in possessions is a dollar not invested. That $15,000 home gym setup could have been $15,000 in index funds, growing to $50,000 or more over 15 years. You didn't just buy a home gym. You bought a home gym instead of future financial freedom. When you add up these hidden costs, many possessions cost more to own than they cost to buy. The purchase. Price is just the entry fee. The ongoing costs continue for as long as you possess the item. Minimalists understand this intuitively. They're not avoiding possessions because they hate nice things. They avoid them because they've calculated the true cost and decided most things simply aren't worth it. It's not sacrifice, it's math. This leads to the first rule that minimalists follow religiously. Rule 1. Calculate cost per use before any purchase. Before buying anything, estimate how many times you'll realistically use it. Divide the total cost by that number. This gives you the cost per use, which is the only honest measure of value that exists. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper in any meaningful sense. This calculation destroys most impulse purchases immediately. That $300 kitchen gadget you'll use twice a year costs $150 per use over the first year. That's an obscenely expensive way to accomplish whatever task it performs. Meanwhile, a $30 tool you use weekly costs less than 60 cents per use over the first year. Cost per use also reveals which purchases are genuinely worthwhile. A $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years costs about 55 cents per use. That's extraordinary value for something affecting your health and energy every single day. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years costs less than $1 per use, likely saving money compared to coffee shop visits. The math cuts through marketing, emotion, and social pressure. It reveals what actually makes financial sense versus what just feels appealing in the moment. Before you buy, do the math. If the cost per use is high, the item isn't worth what it seems. Rule 2. Apply the replacement test to everything you already own. Walk through your home and look at each item you possess. Ask yourself a simple question. If this item disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Would you actually go buy another fondue set? Would you replace that bread maker collecting dust in the cabinet? Would you repurchase those clothes you haven't worn in 18 months? For most items, the honest answer is no. They exist in your life through inertia, not intention. They were impulse purchases, gifts you felt obligated to keep, or remnants of past hobbies and phases you've moved beyond. These items have negative value. They cost you space, mental energy, and maintenance without providing any corresponding benefit. Every hour spent organizing, cleaning around, or thinking about items you wouldn't replace is an hour stolen from things that actually matter. The psychological weight of owning things you don't want is enormous, and most people don't realize they're carrying that weight until it's removed. When you eliminate what you wouldn't replace, rooms feel larger, decisions feel simpler. Cleaning takes half the time. You know where everything is because everything remaining has a purpose. It's not about throwing everything away. It's about keeping only what deserves to stay and letting the rest go without guilt. Rule 3. Never upgrade out of boredom. There's a pattern I see constantly among people who earn good incomes but have nothing to show for it. They upgrade perfectly functional items simply because they're bored with them or because newer versions exist. Their television works perfectly, but the new model has slightly better contrast. Their phone operates flawlessly, but the new release has a marginally improved camera. Their car runs reliably, but the New Year's model has updated styling. Their furniture serves its purpose, but they've grown tired of looking at it. These upgrades feel like improvements. They're actually wealth destruction disguised as progress. Minimalists maintain a strict policy. Never replace something that functions properly. The phone that makes calls, sends messages, and runs apps does not need replacement because a newer phone exists. The car that reliably transports you does not need replacement because the neighbor bought something shinier. This policy saves enormous sums over a lifetime. The average person replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, often while the previous one works perfectly. Over 30 years, this pattern costs $30,000 to $50,000 in unnecessary purchases alone. Applied across all categories where upgrade culture operates, the lifetime waste easily exceeds $200,000. Minimalists escape this trap by defining functional clearly. An item remains functional until it genuinely fails to serve its purpose. Boredom is not failure. Desire for novelty is not failure. The existence of newer alternatives is not failure. Actual mechanical breakdown or genuine inability to perform required tasks is failure. Everything else is marketing convincing you to solve problems you don't have. Rule 4. Define enough before you start earning more. Here's something that traps high earners constantly. They never define what enough looks like, so they keep purchasing more without ever arriving at satisfaction. Their income increases, so they upgrade their lifestyle. The new lifestyle becomes normal, so they need another income increase to feel progress. This cycle continues indefinitely. People earning $150,000 feel just as financially stressed as people earning $50,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded alongside their income. Minimalists break this cycle by defining enough before they start earning. They decide in advance what kind of home is sufficient, what kind of car meets their needs, what level of material comfort constitutes genuine satisfaction. Then they earn toward that target rather than constantly moving the goalpost. This might mean deciding that a $350,000 home is enough even if you eventually could afford $600,000. It might mean deciding that a $30,000 car is enough when colleagues drive $70,000 vehicles. It might mean deciding that your current wardrobe is enough even as your income could support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates a finish line. Without it, you're running an endless race where lifestyle expansion always outpaces income growth. With it, you reach a point where additional income flows entirely to saving and investing rather than consumption. The person who defined enough at $60,000 of annual spending and then started earning $150,000 builds wealth at an extraordinary rate. The $90,000 difference between income and enough goes directly to financial freedom. Meanwhile, someone earning the same $150,000 but constantly redefining enough upward might save almost nothing. The difference between these two people isn't income, it's having a finish line. One knows when they stopped needing more. The other never will. Rule 5. Measure wealth by optionality, not accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have: houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of success. Minimalists measure wealth completely differently. They measure it by what they can choose. Can you leave a job that's destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well but compromise your values? These options represent true wealth, and they're only available to people who've built substantial margin between their income and expenses. The person earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 has almost no optionality. They're chained to their income requirement. The person earning $80,000 but spending $45,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take risks, and make choices based on preference, rather than financial necessity. Minimalists understand that optionality requires liquid resources, not physical possessions. The money tied up in a car you don't need is money that can't buy your freedom when you need it. The home equity locked in excess house is equity that can't fund a career transition. This perspective transforms spending decisions. Each purchase isn't just exchanging money for an object, it's trading optionality for possession. Is this item worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your life? Sometimes yes. Almost always no. Rule 6. Understand the virtuous cycle and protect it with your life. Here's what nobody tells you about minimalism and money. The relationship is bidirectional. Owning less creates more money, but having more money also makes owning less feel natural. Here's how it works. Spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates security. Security reduces the emotional drive to spend. Less spending accelerates saving further. Each turn of the cycle reinforces the next. It's the most powerful virtuous cycle that exists in personal finance. The psychological need that drives most consumption, the need for security and status, gets satisfied by financial strength rather than physical possessions. You don't need the stuff to feel successful because your bank account already tells you the story you want to hear. People trapped in consumption cycles often can't explain why they buy so much. The truth is usually that spending temporarily fills an emotional void that financial insecurity creates. Address the insecurity through actual financial strength, and the compulsion to spend often dissolves on its own. The opposite cycle is equally powerful but destructive. Spending everything creates insecurity. Insecurity drives more spending as temporary emotional relief. More spending deepens insecurity. The cycle continues until some external shock forces a breaking point. The choice between these cycles determines financial trajectory more than income ever could. High earners trapped in the destructive cycle build nothing. Modest earners riding the virtuous cycle build everything. Research consistently shows that beyond a baseline of security and comfort, additional purchases contribute minimally to well-being. Yet most people spend as if happiness scales linearly with spending. Minimalists align their behavior with this research. They spend enough to be comfortable and redirect the excess toward freedom rather than accumulation. They end up with less stuff and more life. Let me give you a practical implementation of these rules that you can start today. Not next week, not next month. Today. This week, walk through your home with the replacement test in mind. Identify 10 items you would not replace if they disappeared. Sell what has value, donate what someone else could use, discard what serves nobody. Pay attention to how it feels removing things you didn't actually want. Most people describe it as lifting a weight they didn't know they were carrying. This month, implement cost per use on every purchase you consider. Before anything goes in the cart, do the math. Price divided by times you'll use it. If the cost per use is high, don't buy it. Simple. Track how many purchases survive this filter versus how many die. The data will reveal how much of your spending was impulse disguised as necessity. This quarter, define enough across the major spending categories of your life. What home is sufficient? What transportation is adequate? What wardrobe meets your actual needs? Write those definitions down. On paper, on your phone, wherever works. Refer to them when temptation arises to exceed your own standards. And from now on, before every purchase, ask one question. Does this give me more options or more stuff? If it gives more options, it's probably worth it. If it gives more stuff, it probably isn't. The financial transformation from these practices compounds over time. Someone who applies these rules consistently for 5 years accumulates substantially less stuff while saving substantially more money. The gap between lifestyle and income creates wealth that can't be built any other way. Remember those 2 apartments I described at the beginning? The one with space, calm, and 18 months of savings belongs to someone applying these rules consistently. They didn't get there through exceptional income. They got there through exceptional clarity about what actually matters. The other apartment, the one stuffed with tagged items and an owner with a knot in their stomach, belongs to someone who never questioned the assumption that more stuff equals better life. Both lifestyles are available to you regardless of what you currently earn. The choice is simply whether you want to own your possessions or whether you're comfortable with your possessions owning you. The math strongly favors the first option. So does the peace of mind. Start today. Your future self is counting on you right now. Trust me, they'll thank you.